This college football coach made $11.7 million in 2022, and this one made $11.2 million in the same year. College football coaches are the highest paid public employees in many U.S. states, with the entire college football league generating nearly $1.3 billion in annual revenue. This has become a very lucrative business, so lucrative that people will do whatever it takes to keep winning. We have all seen these famous football stars and the lavish life they have, but what is the real cost of becoming one of them? There's a cost to being an athlete. In the Midwest and South, massive stadiums are packed every weekend. But despite the billion-dollar revenues, college football is still considered amateur. Players don't get direct paychecks from their schools. Instead, they receive scholarships for tuition, housing, and food, plus a small stipend. These scholarships can be revoked, and healthcare ends after they leave school, even if they still suffer from game-related injuries. In the past, breaking NCAA rules brought strict consequences. Some of you might remember when 5 Ohio State players were suspended in 2010 for trading merch for tattoos. Many view this as an unfair system. College football generates billions, yet the athletes see none of it directly. But things are shifting with NIL deals. Now they can use their name, image, and likeness to finally earn money. Schools can now use these deals to attract top talent. Could NIL reshape the future of the game? It seems likely. For years, college sports were an outlier. No other industry relies on amateur workers while raking in billions. Coaches, athletic directors, and NCAA execs earn millions, and schools invest in facilities. But athletes are often from low-income backgrounds. They saw little of this money. This divide kept going unchallenged until NIL changed in 2021. Now, there were cracks in the system. In 2021, the Supreme Court made a decision. It brought down restrictions on compensating student athletes. Justice Brett Kavanaugh didn't mince words. He criticized the unfair system, and this ruling finally allowed college athletes to earn financially from their talents. Since then, players have been able to cash in on their name, image, and likeness, NIL. Now, they can earn money from endorsements. These deals are everywhere in college sports. For some athletes, these endorsements are more profitable than professional leagues. LSU gymnast Olivia Dunn, for example, makes over $500,000 for a single social media post. But college football is where the big money flows. About half of all NIL funds go toward football. Bryce Young, former Alabama quarterback and top NFL draft pick, earned over $3.5 million through NIL deals with brands like BMW and Dr. Pepper. Ironically, Ohio State players once suspended for signing autographs could now do it legally and get paid well. With NIL, there's also a new way for fans to fuel their favorite teams. Alumni and passionate fans have banded together, forming groups called collectives to pool resources. Rising Spear at Florida State, Golden Touch at Notre Dame, and Texas One at the University of Texas are all collectives. They help funnel funds to athletes, sometimes as incentives for top recruits or to reward players for their performance. For example, the Texas One Collective pays each offensive lineman on the Longhorns $50,000 per season for just a few charity appearances, a new era in college sports. With NIL rights and the rise of collectives, athletes can now earn real money beyond scholarships and stipends. The big question is, how far will this go? Barney Amour's journey is a perfect example of this new landscape. Born in the Netherlands, he eventually tried American football in high school. His kicking skills landed him at Colgate University in New York as the team's punter, where games were small family affairs. But after graduating, Barney wanted more. He headed to Penn State for grad school, moving from Colgate's small stands to stadiums filled with 100,000 fans. Millions more were now watching him on TV. For athletes like Barney, the shift in college sports opens doors to bigger crowds to impress. During his time at Penn State, Barney watched NIL explode from a small idea into a full industry. At first, people thought NIL deals would mean a few $100 here and there. But soon, top players were pulling up to games in Teslas and Range Rovers, courtesy of luxury car deals. Barney wasn't the star quarterback, but he was determined to cash in on NIL. He took matters into his own hands, getting a local business directory and cold calling for sponsorships. His efforts paid off. He snagged deals with a local donut shop and a home goods store, even showing up to games with a pillow as part of a funny ad. A viral video for a healthcare company sealed his status as an NIL standout. His creativity earned him a nomination for 2023 NIL Innovator of the Year. But balancing it all wasn't easy. Between classes, football, study halls, and business meetings, Barney's schedule was nonstop. Still, he held the highest GPA among senior football players, broke punting records, and gained national recognition. Barney's journey shows how NIL is changing college sports. With some hard work and smart branding, he turned his role as a punter into a unique opportunity, balancing NIL and student life. It's difficult, though. Some college players are struggling to balance classes, practice, and the sudden money from NIL deals. For others, financial success in college sets them up for trouble later, especially if a pro career doesn't happen and the money stops coming in. Now, coaches and administrators are having concerns about its long-term impact on young athletes. Many students are struggling to manage NIL. It's overwhelming. The problem is aspirational labor. Athletes pour time and money into NIL, opportunities with no guarantee of return. This new era has opened a Pandora's box that will permanently change college sports. As NIL grows, the divide between wealthy programs and smaller schools may only get bigger. The rise of the haves and have-nots. The University of Alabama stands as a prime example of the haves in college sports. Under Nick Saban's leadership, Alabama claimed 6 national championships since 2009. Their athletic department ranked 3rd in the country in 2022. This showed the world how profitable top-tier college football can be. But Alabama's current athletic director, Greg Byrne, saw potential issues down the road. Currently, college football revenue supports other university sports programs that don't bring in profits. But with more funds flowing to athletes through NIL, the balance could shift. Byrne warns that this trend might put the financial model at risk. Where will the funding come from? He also disagreed with the idea that college athletes are unpaid labor. Alabama spends about $160,000 per year on scholarships covering room, board, and tuition. Plus, athletes receive about $42,000 in tax-free cash from housing allowances and grants. Byrne believes these benefits should be considered when discussing the future of college sports. He wants consistent national guidelines for NIL rules to simplify things. Right now, each state has its own rules. This can be pretty confusing for everyone involved. Transparency is also becoming a major problem. Jaden Rashada is a high school quarterback. He thought he'd secured a $13 million NIL deal tied to his commitment to the University of Florida. But when the deal fell apart, Rashada faced some tough decisions.
College football. Georgia quarterback Jaden Rashada has sued Florida head coach Billy Napier, a top Gators booster, and a former football staffer over a failed NIL deal.
He ultimately transferred and is now playing at Arizona State. This is how shaky some NIL deals can be. Some athletic directors and members of Congress are pushing for reform, but we don't know if there's enough support to make it happen. Over a dozen bills have been proposed, but no dice. And NIL rules are tricky, but the power dynamics are shifting. Jason Stahl, current head of the College Football Players Association, thinks new federal rules aren't the answer. The NIL is part of the free market, so why would Congress interfere? Instead, he thinks athletes should take control, have licensed agents, push for revenue sharing, and get long-term health benefits from their schools. And honestly, things are changing. With more NIL money pouring in, college football is starting to look like free agency. Players are switching teams for better opportunities, more playing time, or bigger NIL deals. It's a simple fact. Winning programs attract wealthy donors. This is a loop of success and some much-needed funding. Over the past decade, costs and revenues have skyrocketed. Now, the schools willing to spend big are the ones coming out on top. Sports are big business now, according to current Miami athletic director Dan Radakovich. These days, more money is coming in from TV deals, ticket sales, and sponsorships. At Clemson, Radakovich helped build a top football program. With Coach Dabo Swinney, Clemson won 2 national titles. The revenue went from $83.5 million in 2015 to $158.2 million in 2022. Donor contributions shot up from $19.97 million to $60.8 million too. But this success came with a price. Clemson's spending jumped nearly 50% higher than the average school. This meant bigger recruiting budgets, higher staff salaries, and huge coaching contracts. Today, it's all about who can spend the most to build the best team. If you like this video, check this other one.